Hello. As you know, we're in the season of Lent right now, and this season we're going to do something a little bit different here at St. Peter's. During the season of Lent, we'll focus on the Exodus story and the Exodus journey as the Israelites leave Egypt and move into the Promised Land. And it's not an accident that we're doing it this way. The season of Lent has always been connected with the Exodus experience. There's probably a few reasons for that. The most important one, of course, is that Jesus and his disciples celebrated the Passover just before Jesus died on the cross. The Bible talks about Jesus being the Lamb of God, and in Egypt, just before the last plague took place, Moses asked the Israelites to take lambs, sacrifice the lambs, and put the blood of the lamb over top of their doorways, and this would signify that the angel of death would pass over that house. That's what the Passover was about. Jesus is that lamb. He's that lamb for us, for you and for me, so that the angel of death doesn't keep us from getting into heaven. And so there are all these linkages between the Exodus experience and Jesus' death and resurrection and the season of Lent. Romans chapter 11, beginning at verse 13. Now I'm speaking to you Gentiles, inasmuch as then I am an apostle to the Gentiles. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, a wild olive shoot, were grafted in their place to share the rich root of the olive tree, do not boast over the branches. If you do boast, remember that it is not you that support the root, but the root that supports you. Here's another Bible passage, again, one of many that we could pick. This is from Galatians chapter 3, verses 6 to 9 rather. Just as Abraham believed God and it was reckoned to him as righteousness, so, you see, those who believe are the descendants of Abraham. And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, declared the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, all the Gentiles shall be blessed in you. For this reason, those who believe are blessed with Abraham who believed. So you see in these two Bible passages, Paul is making a direct and a firm link between the modern day church and the people of Israel in the Old Testament. In Galatians chapter 6, it says that the church is the Israel of God. We are called Israel. In Galatians chapter 3, it says that when we get baptized, we become Abraham's descendants, just as much as if we were born naturally as one of his physical descendants. Baptism makes us one of his descendants, part of his family. In the book of Revelation, it says that all of God's people together will forever be singing the song of Moses. That's forever. That's what we'll be doing in heaven. The early Christians then celebrated the Passover because they knew that if there hadn't have been a Passover and a liberation from slavery in Egypt, there would have been no Moses, there would have been no King David, there would have been no Solomon, no prophets, and ultimately no Jesus. So there's a lot of connections between the Passover and our experience as Christians. Of course, one of the most important ones is this, that the Passover was the very first communion meal. That Last Supper that Jesus celebrated with his disciples took place as part of Passover. That was a Passover meal, and that was where communion was instituted. That was the very first time that Jesus said about a piece of bread, "This is my body broken for you," or "This is my blood shed for you." So knowing all this, it makes sense for us to see ourselves as part of the people of Israel as they leave Egypt and journey with Moses into the Promised Land. And that's what we'd like to ask you to do this Lent. As we go through the 40 days of Lent here at St. Peter's, I'd like to invite you to join with us in celebrating your liberation from slavery to Pharaoh and your liberation to serve and worship God and ultimately enter the Promised Land. This is your story. It's not just their story, it's your story as well.